Hello, welcome to this episode of Let's Chat Live. I'm your host, Chris Revel. My co-host today is the one, the only, the Vern from the Cinema Recall podcast and longtime podcast friend.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Oh,
Hello, Chris.
we're
Sorry,
really
my
excited.
microphone and my camera is from the past. So
Hey, you're here.
I'm
That's
coming
all
to
that
you.
matters.
I love it.
We love it. We're going to jump right into it in a couple of seconds. But Let's Chat Live is our video podcast, which is part of Let's Chat Media, where we like to bring on the podcasters or making the podcast that we listen to. I think I was telling Vern, I know I got connected. I'm pretty sure we got connected through to David through you, Vern, because I know you guys have done podcasts together and stuff, and we're all Twitter friends. Just quick off the top, if you want to follow anything else we're doing with our podcast, Let's Chat with Chris Revel. You can join our Let's Chat Club or follow Let's Chat Live. Everything is just Let's Chat Podcast and .net. And before we actually, I do want to do something a little different tonight before we bring David on. I just want to give a shout out to my dad, who may never see this. This is his. My dad has a radio show that turned 11 today. Ever since he retired, he started.
Epic.
Yeah, 11 years old. Today, 11 years, he started a radio show at Wesleyan University. You can listen to it, WESU. It's like a folk acoustic blender. It's a folk radio show that he started after he retired, because apparently once you retire, you don't ever sit still. So shout out, Dad. You'll never see this. But anyway, more importantly, let's bring on the one, the only, David Rosen from Piecing Together. If I had a voice, I could have done better horns for you.
What an introduction. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
David, man, it's good to have you on here, buddy.
Absolutely. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
Anyone watching, feel free to leave some comments. So David, my first question is, how do you two know each other?
Well, I had David on one of my shows of Cinema Recall talking about the movie Alien, because Alien just got released in theaters for like the special anniversary edition. And I've been listening to David's show, Piecing It Together, for a while, and it's just an amazing show. It's very different from a lot of other podcasts that I listen to. I maybe I should have David explain it more better than I can, but I just like the fact, too, that his show gives like a lot of great recommendations on a movie. Like, they don't just review a movie, which is great, but I like the fact that they build building blocks about movies. And as a movie fan, I like to see the recommendations. Even if I don't like the movie, the fact that they give you other movies to recommend with it is just really freaking amazing. And once I heard him on the show, I'm like, I gotta have him on a show to talk about Alien, because they're having the anniversary edition, and I was so grateful that he got to be on the show. And then months later, I was on his show, and I know the name of the movie. It's Chameleonaire.
Yeah.
With
I didn't see that.
Oh gosh, Rachel. Is it? Oh gosh, that girl, Rachel Evan Woods.
Rachel Wood. Yeah,
I knew that. Thank you, Evan Rachel Woods, and Deborah Wiener, Richard Jenkins.
Yeah.
About a family of con artists.
Oh yeah, right. My friend grew up on the same street as Richard Jenkins in Rhode Island.
Huh, that's cool.
Oh.
Richard Jenkins and the Fairley brothers had this house, lived on the same street in Cumberland, Rhode Island.
Wow.
I saw the message from Glinda. Hello, Glinda.
We love Linda.
She's real great. Now, I know that you, besides being like, well, first of all, let me ask you this, David, because how old would you say Piecing It Together is? Like, how many episodes have you done so far?
I think we're at 186 maybe of the main episodes, but then we also do like little side series, like we do these Breaking It Apart episodes where we take the format of looking at what movies might have inspired the new movie, and instead we look at an old movie and what movies it inspired. So we do like little side series like that. There's also Missing Pieces, which kind of blends the two together, and then various special episodes. But the main numbered episodes that are like about a specific new movie, yeah, I think it was 186 was the most recent one.
Damn,
but it's been going 4 years now, and
4 years.
I keep going.
Did you always just have? Oh, go ahead, Chris. I don't want to step on your toes.
Oh no. Actually, talk more. That my voice isn't all there, so go ahead.
I just want to ask you now, David. Did you always have Piecing It Together podcast, or did you have other shows you did before that?
So I still also do a news and politics kind of show with my best friend Q. It's called Bird Road, and that was the first like entry into podcasting. But with Bird Road, I was always kind of like steering the conversation into movies, and so eventually I was just like, I should just start my own movie podcast too. Why not have two podcasts? I have plenty of time for all that. But then I also produce a couple of other podcasts as well. Awesome Movie Year and All Rice No Beans, which is a restaurant podcast. So I do a whole bunch in the podcasting world.
Oh, that's
I saw that.
amazing.
And you're a composer.
So,
Yes, that too.
So I was like, oh, this is a guy. One thing I love about the piecing together and what you're doing too is like, so I'm a huge music fan. I grew up in like the punk rock world, and very much like punk rock is like a music scene fans. I'm not sure if this is the same with like, it's probably a little similar to film, but like you buy the CD, you open up the jacket, and then you look in the thank yous to see all the bands, or like you find a band like that maybe wasn't very popular, but everyone would go on to be doing something really famous. Like it's you. I like that kind of that web, and that's what I kind of loved about. There's a lot of movie podcasts out there. Many of them are wonderful, but yours is so different because I'm such the same way. Like I can't just listen to a band. I'm like, what band was the drummer in before? What T-shirt they wearing? And we're piecing together. Yeah. It seems like you all have that same mind, but with like directors and
Absolutely.
like the influence. And I was like, oh. And for someone like me, like I like movies, but I would call myself like a popcorn movie fan. I'm not nearly at the level of you guys are, but I don't feel talked down to by either of your podcasts, which I have found that in certain movie podcasts where that makes me feel terrible about myself and I don't listen to them.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I love about bringing different guests on all the time, because every week we have a different guest to help me do the whole piecing it together format of looking at a movie through the lens of what other movies inspired it. And everybody kind of brings a little bit of a different point of view to that. And some of my guests are like, big time film nerds and film buffs, and some of them went to film school, or some of them are filmmakers, but some of them are just film fans that just happen to love movies, and they can look at a movie and say, oh, that reminded me of this other movie, and so it definitely brings a different flavor depending on who is my guest at the time. And then myself, I just kind of, I, like you said, I'm a composer, so I work in film from that angle. But other than that, I'm just, an appreciator of film. I love movies my whole life, and I have a pretty wide range of taste when it comes to movies. And so it's just something I've always wanted to do, is talk about movies with people.
I do let everyone know out there too that David's composing site, I hope I'm saying this right, David, by davidrosen.com.
You got it. Yep, absolutely. I'm currently working on a feature-length film score right now, which is actually the second one I'll have worked on this year. And then I've got a short film lined up right after I finish that. So it's weird. Like the past couple of years, podcasting kind of took over, even though I continue to work on films and I continue to put out these albums of instrumental music. But this year, it's kind of like music is taking back control of my time a little bit, and it didn't happen on purpose that way, but I have been quite busy with composing work, and that's good. And I'm sure podcasting will wrestle it back soon enough, but not that I stop either one. I'm doing them all at the same time and driving myself nuts.
Yeah.
Now, David, how did you get? I'm curious, David, how did you get involved with doing composing? I mean, just start off with just doing composing for free for friends. I mean, how did you build it up to commercials and then feature films?
Yeah, I started off just making, pieces of instrumental music and not really quite sure what I wanted to do with them, but I started realizing that they were kind of, becoming cinematic in nature. And I've always loved film scores, and the thought of, somebody sending me a film and then I lock myself in a room and create the music that's going to accompany that film, that's always really appealed to me. And so it's just a matter of working on my craft until I felt like I was, ready to do it. And then, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend was the first, gig. And then it just kind of built from there. And for example, the films that I've been working on this year, one of them is from this director, Chris Johnson, who I've actually worked with a few times now. The first time, like 6 years ago, was just a Craigslist ad. And next thing you know, we've worked on 2 features and 6 shorts and a couple of music videos. So yeah, we've worked on a bunch of stuff together. And then the other feature that I'm working on this year is a referral. Someone who I had previously worked with referred me to them, and next thing you know, it's another gig. So yeah, it's just a matter of continuing to put myself out there and make connections that hopefully lead to things.
Yeah.
Have you found doing the podcast has done like intentionally or unintentionally done that?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I love doing my podcast, I absolutely do, and I plan on doing it for a long, long time. But in the back of my mind, there's always the idea that this is going to put me in front of people to hopefully get more composing gigs, And so
Sure.
that's definitely a big goal of the podcast, is just being in the world of movies, talking about movies, and with film fans. And film fans tend to be filmmakers sometimes, and so
Yeah.
hopefully that continues to get me more and more gigs like that.
So, like, how do you promote your music to potential filmmakers? I mean, do you just like kind of sneak out little blips of your music to people like, hey, this is just, I mean, what's your best way of marketing? Do you have like a strategy you do?
For the most part, it's just a matter of, it's just like promoting a podcast. Honestly, it's just being out there and being seen. Whether that means, just constantly being on social media, whether that means going to events and, networking, which I suck at, but, I got to do it. And whether that means, going to film festivals and things like that. So it's all of the above, just doing everything I can to just constantly be seen and be heard. I've gotten a lot of gigs through various freelance sites, and like I said, there's referrals that hopefully I make a good impression on people, and they refer me to other possible gigs. But it's just a matter of just constant grinding.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
since you are a music composer, David, I'll ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot right now, and I apologize if I do this. What is your top 5 favorite movie stores? Top 5. Any?
No pressure.
Yeah,
no pressure.
Just so you know, Spielberg and Lucas are watching right now.
Right, yeah. I know, right? Five's a lot. Yeah. Well, I will
top
tell
3?
You. Well, I think I could figure out 5 here. Okay, so I'll tell you, we did a special episode on the top 10 of last decade, and my number 1 was the Grand Budapest Hotel from Alexander Desplat.
Oh, really?
Beautiful score.
Love that score. Of course, I'll go back to Terminator 2. One of the all-time classics. I really love the Ex Machina score. That is just fantastic as far as electronic scores are concerned. Just awesome.
One of the composers of Ex Machina, is it Jeff Burrows?
Yeah.
The same guy from Portishead. And once I heard that one of the musicians from Portishead is doing a movie score, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fully in there for that. And it's amazing.
That's awesome score. Awesome score. I'll go to The Social Network because Trent Reznor is, obviously like a big inspiration for me personally.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. He did Social Network too?
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
I know he did Soul, but I didn't know he was doing.
Yeah, he's been on a roll the last like 5-6 years. That was his first one, his first of the his film score, like transitioning into that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do know that also Trent Reznor did some production work for the Lost Highway soundtrack.
Sure. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
The David Lynch one, that he kind of like composed the soundtrack for that, as well as like the soundtrack for Natural Born Killers. Like he's the one that designed how the songs go for that. He was a producer for that one, and just it kept building on. And then David Fincher hired him and Atticus Ross to do the Social Network. Won the Oscar, rightfully so.
Oh yeah, great stuff. I got to come up with one more, right? How about I'll go with If Beale Street Could Talk. That is an absolutely beautiful score. Nicholas Britell he's one of my favorites working right now. Excellent music.
That is a beautiful score.
I love that you guys know the composers' names. Like this just warms my heart so much because like I'm like this with other things, just not with film for a reason. But like I just love anytime anyone just loves something that much. Like I'm just such a fan.
I forget the name of the guy who did the soundtrack for the Terminator 2. Isn't it Basil something?
Brad
Fidel.
Yeah.
You're right, Brad Fidel. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Oh, shout out to Seaball. That's one of our
Hey,
chat
Chris.
crew.
Seaball.
No, Seaball. Ball, if you're watching, do you he's a music fanatic as well, but do you go deep into composers? Like I know a lot about bands, but I don't know much about composers outside of like John Williams. This is fascinating to me. I know you have a movie podcast, but I don't think, I'll be honest, I think you're the first time I've ever even spoken to a composer. I've said this before, like I love music, but like musicians are like magicians to me. Right. I don't understand how you make music, and then throw in composing, and I'm just like, I swear to God, it's like looking at like to me, you're a magician. Like I have no idea how you do your beautiful art. It blows my mind.
Well, with my particular like style of composing, my inspirations are mostly from the world of music, like pop music or alternative music. And not so much composers, even though I, of course, love and appreciate so much of the work that all of those classic composers did. Of course, I love John Williams scores and, Howard Shore and all those people. But my biggest inspirations are things like Nine Inch Nails, obviously Trent Reznor. I'm really big on The Cure and Depeche Mode and a lot of that like alternative type of music. And
same.
That's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, both in my instrumental music that I put out, my albums under my name, David Rosen, and the scores that I work on. A lot of it comes from that as much as it comes from film score composers.
You know what I hear a lot when I hear your scores, David? You may disagree with me or this or not, or disagree with me or this or not. I get a little bit of like a Chris Mansell, the composer of Drive.
Sure.
I get some of that vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a lot of work.
I love that kind of blending electronica with traditional score and also a little bit of sound design mixed in there as well, and really just trying whatever is necessary to make it fit and make it work and to elevate the film in the way that it needs to be done.
God, even a little bit of like the composer of Mandy, Jornad. Oh God, I'm gonna totally. All right, it's a Norwegian name, folks. Okay, I can't really tell you.
That's fair. That's fair.
Who the name of this guy is here, but he also did sound work for other features that I'm just gonna like totally blank right now. But I'm gonna find this in just like 2 minutes.
Sicario as well.
Sicario, yeah. Sorry, Johannesson.
Yeah, that's about as good as I could do in pronouncing it.
You're very kind.
But yeah, I did the music for Arrival, which I thought was really good. He also helped out with the music for Darren Aronofsky's Mother, which is just soundscapes right there.
Well, actually, there's an interesting story about that one because that's one of my favorite movies, and there is no score in that movie. He composed an entire score for it, and then he sat down with Darren Aronofsky, and the two of them said, "You know what? No score would be better." And I want to hear that music one of these days. I hope that it comes out in some method. But yeah, he composed a whole score, and it's just sitting there unused.
Oh, I thought he just designed a lot of the soundscapes that happened in that movie.
Yeah, I think he might have done some of the sound effects or whatever, but no, there's an actual musical score that wasn't used.
Oh gosh, that would be just so epic to hear that.
Oh
yeah. Are you a fan of John Carpenter scores?
Oh, I should have brought that up when mentioning my top 5. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you do, a top 5 list, and the rest of the hour is going to be like, I do that. I do that all. I always blank when someone asks me, like, what podcast do you listen to? I'm like, oh, mine. I mean, not really mine, but other people's.
Right. Yeah, John Carpenter's amazing.
That's too funny.
He still goes. He's doing more with the music now than he has been doing with his film stuff, and that's just been really amazing. He releases like albums nonstop. He goes on tours.
Yep.
It's really kind of cool.
So what got you into podcasting? Like as a from a listener standpoint, before you started, did you listen then create, or did you jump right into making one?
Yeah, the first one I listened to was WTF with Mark Maron.
Classic.
I was in the middle of a pretty big Curb Your Enthusiasm marathon, and I listened to the Richard Lewis episode. And
Classic.
yeah,
Classic.
that got me hooked, and I listened to that show like religiously for years. I don't listen
Same.
to it as much anymore. I'll listen to an episode here and there, but
Same.
yeah,
Same.
it was so great though. And yeah, I listened to just a bunch of stuff, a lot of movie podcasts, of course. But before I got into making my own.
And the podcast community, like Twitter could be a really vile, dark, scary place or a dumpster fire. But honestly, for my money, if you can find your right bubble of like good podcast folk or whatever your niche community is, I've found some. Like that's how I met Vern and I had met years ago. Like it's just been the podcast community is so wonderful and lovely and supportive. And I always thought it was funny, like with the pandemic, I felt like a lot of people I knew in my life kind of caught up to what I had been doing. I was like, oh yeah, I've been hanging out with strangers on the internet, talking on Twitter, and then recording Zoom calls for fun. Well, Zoom
Right.
for years. So like I felt like you saw a lot of people kind of catch up to that. Like I feel like I've been following you on Twitter for a while.
Right. It's probably I feel like I'm on there all day, every day. It's ridiculous, but yeah, it's about the podcast community. One thing, like before I started my podcast and when I was just doing my music and, like I said, constantly the social media outreach and all that stuff, I found it was like, impossible to really get interaction going with other people as far as, music is concerned. But in the podcast world, it's like a whole other story. Everybody wants to connect and talk and, work together and promote each other. And it's great. It is an awesome community.
Almost to the detriment that none of us were ever like, should we monetize this until like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, oh wait, I should be charging for these things, but like no, but I don't mind. I truly, and and it's not even, and just the example, it's not even just indie podcast people, like just like nerds like me, and like I've like connected with people that I've like had admired for years, or like were a part of something that I loved, and I'm like, and they're kind enough to like step down and talk to me, and then my podcast is Let's Chat with Chris Revel, which is we're all connected, our audio podcast. I started that in 2013 and tried to quit, unable to as well. I know that feeling. It's addicting.
Oh yeah.
At some point, and now I love getting to work and meet with all these people who are kind of within the first year of it or just starting. And I'm like, yeah, that's all right. Trust me, no one's going to listen, but that's okay. Well, I like to feel like I pulled the Jerry Seinfeld, where there's an old story of Jerry Seinfeld when anyone ever asked him if they had any advice for them to break it into comedy, he would just tell them to quit. And he's like, yeah, he's like, if you're looking to me for advice, you shouldn't be doing it. And I'm like, I kind of get that with podcasting, like it's kind of in the blood. Vern, I think you probably feel the same way too, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with podcasting is, and I'm sure you guys may have heard this before, like a lot of people get into podcasting with the sole intent that they're going to make money at it right away. Like, I'm going to start a podcast, I'm going to start getting monetizing it for it like right away, and that's not necessarily how it works out there. You gotta like release content, keep releasing it. You build a small following, and it keeps building from there and there. But don't expect to get into podcasting in the hopes that you're going to get sponsorships right away. It's just not going to really happen. I've been very fortunate and lucky that with my podcasting for Cinema Recall as well as the podcast, that I've been able to actually become an editor for other shows. So right now I do editing for Real Spoilers as well as For the Crowd. And so I've been very lucky to actually start getting like paid work, and I'm trying to build it more, but it may take several years before I start land that one. And I'm totally fine just working out small, building my reputation, keep doing Cinema Recall, helping out here with Let's Chat Live, being other people, building up networks of people, because you never know. There may be that one time that, hey, I heard that Vern guy does editing work and he might be perfect for this project, and we should have him on for here. Very say tomorrow we got an interview with Bree, Chris's producer, for Let's Chat. So I'm very excited to actually have a meeting with her. Yeah, you just gotta keep building at it. I don't know. Do you ever do you have any sort of advice for podcasters, David, on doing shows like this? Because you've been at this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the two things, the number one is, make sure that what you're going to do as your main thing, like for me, my piecing it together, is something that you truly want to do, because people like consistency and they
Yeah.
want you to keep doing what you're going to do. If you're going to just keep like, jumping around and changing things and not know exactly what your niche is, like
or when you release.
or
Yeah.
when. That's a big thing too. They want to know that there's an episode coming each week or every other week, however often it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure it's something you really are going to want to keep doing all the damn time, But then, just like you were just saying, Vern, like you gotta recognize where your opportunities are. You might be hoping that your podcast is the one that's going to make money, but then what if you're going to get editing gigs or producing gigs or guesting gigs or whatever it is that actually turns into something of a career. And so it's definitely important to know that that's going to change along the way, and saying yes to opportunities is important.
Yeah, because you've been doing composing for how many years? Have you been composing music for?
I mean, I've been composing for like 18 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've been really active though the last 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those first 8 years was just like a thing here, a thing there. But yeah, the last 10 have been busy.
That's just
that's
amazing,
awesome,
work.
man.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times a lot of podcasters, after about a few months or so, they just give up. Their numbers are not what they thought it was going to be. They're like, oh, I should be in the millions of thousands. I should be the number one podcast on Apple. Like, you only have 5 episodes, okay? Slow it down a little bit. Nothing wrong with your show. It just takes time to build. Cinema Recall had horrible numbers when it first started out. Horrible. Every podcast I started had horrible numbers when I started out.
Everybody
and then
does.
Throughout the
even,
years,
even celebrities don't even get the numbers they want anymore because it's so saturated.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I remember putting episodes out and be like, all right, if this could hit 13 downloads in a month, I will be thrilled.
I guess.
And that's happened.
Next month you go for 15. So
yeah, I'm for 5. No.
Yeah, and then it's funny too. Once you actually have downloads, like, I'm not to be braggadocious or anything, but like now that I actually get downloads, I don't care because I'm like, whatever. I don't. Until I get to a point where those numbers turning to like sponsorship dollars, then I'll be in a different position. But like right now, I'm like, if I get 10,000 or 200 or 7, financially speaking, nothing matters. Like nothing changes for me anymore. So like, yeah, no, and Vern, I love what you said, but because like that's kind of what happened to me. Like I was doing this forever as a hobby, and maybe like a little over a year ago, I was like, I really want to figure out how to make this like a career, and then, unbeknownst to anyone like who's doing it as a hobby, you're like, oh, I unintentionally have this commercial I had been making that I can then pivot for that, and I had to a producing gig we're still waiting to get some paperwork signed on that. So I don't think I'm supposed to talk about that until it's actually happening. And then, but like it's the same thing. It's just also, if anyone out there, podcast producers at like iHeartRadio, like those stuff, like, oh my god, like a professional podcast for like iHeartRadio or NPR stuff, or whatever, they make like they cost like $600 to $5,000 an episode to make. So like we've been also making it unintentionally. You taught yourself a skill that is very valuable.
Right.
I didn't know this. This is just like I just fell in love with doing it. And to your point too, David, you're right. Pick your main thing and pick something you like doing, because it's also an investment of your time. And if you're making a podcast, and like to me, the reward, this is the reward. My favorite part is the talking to people. Like I purposely picked a guest-based podcast because I'm never gonna watch a movie and talk about it. It's just I would have quit that podcast, but I'm just a sucker I love talking to people who make the art that I love. Like it's just at this point I think it's like a borderline addiction.
Yeah, it's for me too. And don't be afraid to make failures here and there, because I've started up with a podcast. I had one podcast I had with me with a bunch of friends that lasted for like a long time, and I thought that this shit was going to happen for like a long time. Don't last forever, but then people get married, they move, kids and whatnot there, so things change. And
you
just gotta, and then you start creating one show and that show fails, then you create another one, you hope that one does good, but it fails, and you just gotta keep trying and trying again. And I think that David here has a great format with piecing together.
Really love that. Yeah,
it's so different. Did we explain your show at all, piecing together what your show's about? I mean, we talked about how great it was, but I don't know if we actually said what it was. I want to have you sell the concept of it. I didn't want me to talk over you, So sell it.
No
Pimp
problem.
away.
So the main concept of piecing it together is that a guest and I, each week, we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. So the conversation will lead kind of down a rabbit hole or a tangent, if you will, going through a whole bunch of other movies that myself and my guest have each prepared, that the movie we're covering reminds us of in some way, whether it has to do with the filmmaking or the settings or the message or the plot or anything related to the movie that these other movies it kind of reminded us of. We go there and talk about why. And like you had said earlier, you end up with this great recommendation list of other movies to check out along the way. And it's just a different way of talking about movies because, we all love to, discuss movies that something reminded us of. But that's usually just like a side part of any given review, like maybe a one sentence thing. This is the whole concept of the show and really lets us dive into that.
Yeah. Like, for example, on the episode I did with you on Kajillionaire, one of my puzzle pieces was Parasites. Mm-hmm. Since Kajillionaire is about a family of con artists.
Yep.
So it was the same thing with Parasites. So Absolutely. You kind of made that connection there. But yeah. Then other episodes, I think you guys did one on Mortal Kombat, I believe, not too long ago.
Not yet.
No, you did. Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm looking at someone else's site here. My gosh, I'm an asshole.
Oh no, it's all good. I'm one of the only people that likes that movie, which I'm probably losing a bunch of your listeners right now.
No, the 2020 movie?
Yeah.
I liked it.
I had so much fun.
I didn't hate it.
It's so dumb, but I had so much fun with that movie.
Well, I felt that way about so I saw that in theaters, so I don't know if I loved the movie or it was more of like, oh my god, I'm in a theater.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw Kong vs. Godzilla as on IMAX as well.
Oh.
And actually, Chris Ball, our buddy who was on here earlier, was giving me crap for like liking the movie. I was like, dude, I didn't know there's two movies before it. I don't know anything about King Kong. I just took a bunch of edibles and wanted to watch a monkey and a robot show up at the end and fight.
It delivered.
Have you seen that meme? This is the best meme about that movie review, and it's like a scene from like Seinfeld with Kramer and Jerry and Elaine, and it just crosses out and they put like Godzilla and Kong on it. It's like, can't you see you two are in love? It was like that's pretty much the entire plot of that movie. It's like, can't you see you just love each other?
That's awesome. That is.
I felt like I was 12 in that movie. Like it was it was such a great experience. I mean, I really loved it.
I had so much fun with that movie. Yeah, we did do an episode on that one. So we get into a lot of puzzle pieces about everything between big giant movie mashup, mashups between giant characters, and then like the whole Hollow Earth thing, and there's so much to kind of dig into with that movie.
It was. I'm a big fan of like, especially criticism where people like, I hate when people say like take any art and then tell you what they wish it was. Where like true criticism should be like take it for what it is. Like don't go to Kong vs. Godzilla the same lens you're gonna watch Schindler's List and tear it apart. Like that's not fun to me. Like. Sure. Kong vs. Godzilla was to make me feel 12 and then give me a robot for no reason. And that's all I wanted.
That's right.
Although Kong Godzilla in black and white talking about the Holocaust may be interesting as well.
Very possibly. Yeah,
Kong comes in and saves the day.
Could be. What's really cool about your show, David, is the fact that you don't review just the big blockbusters or art house films. You also review some really great like cult features as well. You also did one on Wiley's Wonderland, Nicolas Cage, PG, Central Gorman, which is another fun one. And you have like a lot of just amazing guests. Like how are you able to just like book guests for your show? Do you just like put out that I'm going to be reviewing this movie and then just ask for someone to bite?
Yeah, well, first comes the movies themselves, because I need to watch a lot of movies so that way I can, figure out what exactly, I'm going to want to talk about on the show, and what movies I think I can actually come up with a good list of puzzle pieces, which is what we call the other movies that may have inspired it. But yeah, first things first is watching a lot of movies and making a list of those movies so I can start reaching out to people. But I've been lucky enough that, lately I'm actually having people reach out to me saying they want to guest on the
They're
show.
the best.
Yeah, it's awesome when people do that. It's really cool. So anybody listening now that wants to join me for an episode one day, definitely get in touch. But
We're I'm gonna totally take you up on that.
Awesome.
I
But yeah,
love-
I have people on multiple times as well. Like people come back, and sometimes we'll even get into like themes, or like where I have like my one friend Chad, who was on the first episode way back in the day. He's like a big, huge DC Zack Snyder fan, and so
Nice.
anytime there's a DC movie, I always have Chad on to talk about it. So like I have
missed the
certain
Snyder
guests
cut.
that come back like that. Oh, the Snyder cut is definitely.
I heard it was good.
Out. Yeah, it is.
I just didn't feel like it. I will at some point.
It's a big undertaking.
Are you going to, which version of the Snyder Cut are you going to watch?
The new one that they released, it looked cool,
there's two versions.
There's two. All right, now I'm done. I was so underwhelmed with Wonder Woman 1984. I was just like, took a little DC pause. Which,
well, it's Chris. There's a color version or black and white version of
there is
Justice League.
I would do the color one probably.
Yeah, definitely for the color one.
But it's funny too, because Zack Snyder said, I saw some sort of like, I don't know if I'm not taking a quote from him particularly, but he's like, I wanted this movie to be seen in black and white from the start. And I'm like, well, why didn't you release the movie in black and white to the start then? I don't know. Like, and I can't tell if that's a quote from him exactly, so don't.
Yeah,
you know Zack Snyder.
Yeah, sure.
But they do have two versions of the same movie, basically, on HBO Max, a black and white version of Zack Snyder's Justice League and a colorized version. So take it for what you will. I kind of like black and white versions of movies. Like, I'm a big fan of Mad Max Fury Road, black and chrome. I prefer The Mist in black and white, but I don't know if Justice League is one that needs to be seen in that.
Yeah. Are you a Marvel fan? What are your thoughts on Marvel movies? Where do you stand on that? Because I know that can get divisive with the film community.
Yeah, I'm just a movie fan. You know, I'm not really on either side of the debate. I don't even really particularly like comic book movies that much. Like, I think they're fine, and I see them all because they're the big movies of the month, when they come out. But they're not particularly my thing. But I have fun talking about them when that's what the episode is. It's going to be interesting, as we started this show 4 years ago. We're starting to get like sequels to the ones that came out when we first started.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wonder Woman was a good example of that, even though it wasn't very good, Wonder Woman 1984. But to talk about Wonder Woman 1984, what movies inspired it versus what movies inspired the first Wonder Woman, you start to like get a lot of overlap between what the pieces could potentially be, So, we got another Ant-Man coming next year. So
I'm excited about that.
I am very much excited, but
the Ant-Mans are super underrated.
I think so too. Yeah, because I love Paul Rudd so much.
But... Yeah, Rudd. I love the Marvel movies like a little bit too much. Like,
yeah,
to the point. I've saw one Fast and the Furious, and I never saw any of them, and always like rolled my eyes at them. And then I was in the theater recently, and I was watching a Fast and Furious preview. I'm like, I watch Marvel movies. I can't judge anyone who likes these. And now I'm like, I need to find a reason to watch all the Fast and the Furious movies because I've heard they're amazing.
I've got a reason for you. They're in the theater every Friday night the next 6 weeks for free if you register for tickets.
It really?
Yeah, they're doing some special promotion leading up to the new one. You just go to I don't know what the website is, but it's online somewhere. But
I will totally do that because I love going to the theater. My favorite theater experience was Endgame, but
yeah.
Oh sure.
Just because, when else do you see a packed movie? I saw it with my brother-in-law who's on the autism spectrum, and him and I went opening night. My wife had to stay home to watch the baby. Then she went Saturday. Then we all went again together. It was a full house. It was completely crowded opening night. And in the 10 or 11 years I've known him, I had never. We've been to funerals, we've been to weddings, we're very close. I've never seen him cry until that movie. And not only did I see him cry, I saw every single person in that theater But the woman next to me handed me a tissue.
Yeah.
Like I've never had such a communal experience. But I don't know if that's even, yeah, that was good. God, I love that movie. That was one of, but I love going to movies so much. Like it's just, yeah. Like I think I'm gonna do that for my birthday. You could rent out the movie theater for like $100 or something, and have like your friends. And I was talking about, I was like, oh, what should we watch? And I was like, well, obviously we're doing a Muppet. Either I'm gonna torture everyone and do an End Game, or I'll go like straight Muppet movie because those are usually my favorite. Like the original Muppet movie is one of my favorite movies ever made.
Awesome.
Can you, if you rent out a theater, can you like choose the format it's in? Like I would love to rent out a theater, but I want to show like a screen in a Frankenhooker on 35 millimeter or something.
I bet if it was like an indie theater, I bet none of the Showcase owns one of those anymore, unfortunately.
Okay, yes, all right.
I don't know,
but there must be an indie theater nearby that you could do that because I know in Rhode Island we can.
There's actually a theater that's close by me called The Heights, and they actually
you should rent it out and just make it Cinema Recall Presents and sell tickets, and then if no one shows up, it's just good promotion.
I would love to do that. And I guess the theater doesn't care because you paid them the rental cost. But
we got our money.
Am I allowed to sell tickets?
Or don't make it like a Patreon thing and like everyone donate. But this is where I wish. The thing I love about podcasting is you get to connect with people all over the world, but the downside is that we all live far away. Like me and Bird have known each other for years and done tons of podcasts together, but we've never met in real life. Like we're different. I don't know. We're like, I'm in Rhode Island, so we're like at least 1,000 miles away. I don't know geography.
But I would walk 10,000 miles and I would walk.
I didn't know we'd be singing on this.
I see. Oh, it's
you didn't get the memo.
I just randomly sing. I apologize.
No, what are you looking forward? What are you both looking forward to watch? Because one of the cool things, the terrible 2020 obviously was terrible, but now everything's going to get released like crazy in 2021.
The weird thing is that the theater that I go to a lot is the Heights. I've got two theaters I go to. One's an AMC theater. The other one is called the Heights. The third one's the Trilon. The Heights and the Trilon, they show a lot of films in 35 millimeter, 70 millimeter digital presentations, but they focus on doing a whole bunch of like older movies. So I'm actually going to be seeing the original Dracula in 35 millimeter. Going to go back and see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in 35 millimeter. Going to see The Wizard of Oz.
That would be cool.
I might be buying tickets for Satan in the Rain. They're going to do a 35 millimeter print of Satan in the Rain, and that would just be too cool to see. And also, the Trilon has a movie called Lady Terminator, which just looks awfully bad, but I'll see it because it's in the theaters. I'm also going to go see The Faculty, that movie with Elijah Wood about the teachers who are possessed by aliens.
Nice.
An old Robert Rodriguez feature. Going to see an old free Bogart movie called Key Largo. Going to go see Harmony Korine Spring Breakers again in theaters.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
So even if I own a movie, I will still go to see it in theaters. Like I just saw Wild at Heart, David Lynch's Wild at Heart, because they're going to be playing it in 35 millimeter, and the film was all scratched. It was jumping at some times. It wasn't the best quality. And I've got a really good DVD copy of Wild at Heart that I can sit at home and watch it. But it's a totally different experience if you get to watch it in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got to see Top Gun in Dolby the other day.
Oh, dude.
It was amazing.
The original?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, new one's not out. Yeah, I loved in the summer. I watched I saw Black Panther, Spider-Verse, and Jurassic Park. They did re-release that. One of them was like two of them were just like a showcase, but one of them was like we have a Greenwich Odeum theater, so like theaters were trying to stay afloat by doing like movies.
Mm.
That was really fun. I love. Have you ever had either of you had the opportunity when they'll like show a movie and play it with an orchestra?
I've never gotten to go to one of those. I would love to though. That would be so cool. Yeah.
And actually, only got to do a Star Trek one, so it wasn't a movie. They did clips. But I know my friend has gone to the one, like, I think those are in bigger cities, I think. But that's a goal of mine to see. Like
they did it here for Star Wars, and I wanted to go. Yeah.
I remember over where I live, I know they did one for the Raiders of the Lost Ark with a big orchestra, but there's no way I could afford to go to that. David, if there is one movie you want to see live with an orchestra, what would it be? Or any type of composer?
Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna go with The Fountain, the Darren Aronofsky film. The Bell score is so big and huge, so I think that with an orchestra would be awesome.
That would be really cool. I won't lie.
I like that idea. Yeah, one of the cool things in Rhode Island and Providence, every year they'll have like it's like the Rhode Island Philharmonic will do like a free community event for everyone at the park, but then they just do movie scores because it's like they know what they're here for because it's people like me. But it's really listening to like some of those orchestral music under the stars is like it really moves you. Like I used to have a friend in college who would only listen to movie or like scores while he would do his homework. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I get that.
You know, like a lot of DVDs, they used to have like the musical score, like just having that on there, and that has not been on many of the recent DVDs. Like I know I've got a copy of Beetlejuice that has like just the musical score.
That's cool.
For that on there, and it's one of those special features that has not been on most upcoming Blu-rays. And I think besides having director's commentary, it's nice to have a film score with occasional commentary from the composer.
Yeah,
that would be just like another beautiful aspect.
Speaking of that, I actually I recently, when I put out my my latest album, which is self-titled, it's just called David Rosen. I put up a special episode of Piecing It Together. I broke from our usual format because it's my show, so it's like, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
And I did just that. I did like a album length commentary where I spoke over all the songs and stories about making them and my thoughts on making them. And it's a cool thing. And I actually will be putting up soon on our Patreon for my other 3 albums, album length commentaries of my other 3 albums as well.
I have listened to the episode with the commentary on your tracks, and that was actually really insightful, and it taught me a lot of how you come up with songs and everything. Yeah, it's actually it was
awesome.
It was really cool. Yeah, I just find the whole thing about what you're doing right now is trying to blend music and podcasting, because that's kind of a different thing right there too, because some people will see you as only being a podcaster or a composer. Do you ever have difficulties trying to like mix the two, or do you have to be like in your podcasting mode? Now I'm doing my film composing marketing mode. Like, do you have like certain days you guys spread those out? Because I gotta do that sometimes with like editing work. I gotta be like, all right, well now I'm doing editing work for someone else. Now I'm going to be doing my podcasting work. Oh, I got to worry about marketing episodes that I did with my podcast. Oh, now I So I'm like, how do you balance those out, David?
It's hard. It's just being busy all the damn time, and then of course watching lots of movies that takes time as well. It's
right.
Especially I don't want to repeat the same puzzle pieces all the time, so I need to have more of a vast knowledge of movies to dip into. So yeah, I'm just constantly watching movies. And if I'm not doing that, it's working on music or editing podcasts, or it's just a lot of stuff going on. But I think after I finish scoring this film, I'm going to have a little bit more free time for at least
a little free time.
Yeah. When you get the free time, I don't know about you guys, like a week later, I'm like, all right, what's next?
Yep, absolutely.
I can't go on like too much love hiatus of my show. And like it's difficult too, because like, and maybe I'm asking you just for some help with this. Like for me, I don't have, people ask me what the format of Cinema Recall is, and I'm like, I don't exactly have as that format because it keeps changing every month. I do like a different theme every month. Is that wise, or should I just keep it more of just like a straight format?
Yeah, I mean, I think keeping a straight format is a good thing. I think it goes back to that consistency.
Yeah. All right. Well, very cool, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. Or maybe at least make it a part of your show. Like, I don't know if you guys listen to Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Oh yeah,
like they do. Yeah, a huge fan, and they'll do like series, and then they do like a palette cleanser. Like it's all kind of the same format, but they switch their directors.
Mhm.
Yeah. I say it's always funny. You always like. I'd always scroll by your Twitter, and for a second, you always look like Griffin Newman. So I'd always like, nope, not Griff. I don't know if you know who he is. I'm a big fan of his. Actually, I do have a kind of a. This kind of pops in my head because I was watching the last Blockbuster while I was working again. I've seen it before, but I was watching it while I was working today. But do you guys have any nostalgia or like do you miss video stores? Like, I love that documentary. My buddy Taylor made it, but like. I have no affection. Well, I hate Blockbuster personally, but like I miss record stores. Well, we still have record stores where I live.
Yeah.
Like I still go to record stores, but
I work in one actually. My family
no
owns a
way.
record store here in Las Vegas. It's called Wax Trax Records, and that's my day job.
Oh,
Seaball, I wish he was out here. He's a big
that
guy.
is epic.
Yeah,
I love record stores, but like I like buying movies, but I don't want to go to a video store. Like I appreciate the documentary. I love the doc, but I was like, I don't miss that at all.
Oh, really? Oh, I love going. I'm so happy that there's actually is a video store not too far from where I live. And you can rent DVDs, you can rent VHS, you can buy DVDs, VHS, Blu-rays. It's actually kind of a cool thing. It's nice to actually go into a store and look around and see the box art of things. Like I'm kind of hoping that there would be some sort of like virtual video store that you can put on your Oculus Rift and like walk and pick out items that way. I know that streaming has just been super easy for people to find stuff right there, but sometimes it's nice to go into a record store and just get recommendations from the staff that is right there. And so I've been very lucky that there's been a few record stores where I live and a few actual video stores. Even your local library is a good place to go to if you want to find physical media. I love going to thrift stores and just finding copies of movies. Although I spent money on a VHS of a movie that I could not find anywhere. It wasn't streaming on any of the platforms. I looked everywhere. So I finally ordered a copy of this movie called The Crook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover. I spent $11 on the VHS, got it in there, and then someone says, hey, you know what has good stuff on their network? Peacock. Like, Peacock? What the heck is that? So I looked on Peacock, I looked in the dramas, and the first thing that was on there was The Crook, the Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover.
No.
for free.
Ridiculous. It was the uncut NC-17 version. Helen Mirren, Michael Gambon, beautiful feature. So I bought the VHS, but I ended up watching the movie on Peacock because it was for free.
That's so funny.
Actually, no, someone recommended me Peacock because the original Mortal Kombat was on there, and I want to watch the original Mortal Kombat before I saw the new one. But that was scrolling other ones. Oh, there it is. I just spent money on the VHS tape, and I thought this movie's not anywhere out there. So that's all right.
I don't really have the nostalgia for the video stores that I know some people do. I mean, they were definitely fun at the time, but they just kind of seem like I can't picture myself like wanting to watch something and then driving to go pick up, a copy. But what I do have nostalgia for, though, is packed movie theaters. I think there's no better way to watch a movie than with a completely packed theater. And aside from, like you were saying earlier with Marvel movies, it's a shame, but that's like the only time you really see the theater packed. Like maybe Furious, but even that doesn't really get packed in the same way.
Yeah, I don't. And I think it's a mixture of things. It's easy for everyone to blame streaming solely, but like, I mean, honestly, up until COVID, it was hard to get me to go to a movie theater because like where I live, it's like crappy showcase with uncomfortable chairs and it's really expensive. And not everyone has access to really cool, like we do have, when I live in Providence, or I still like, that's fun because I like going to those cool small art house theaters. That's a great experience. But like the majority of people, it's like you're seeing a crappy movie in a crappy chair. Mm-hmm. Like the theater going experience is not as special, like with Showcase or AMC or whatever. Right. But I think you'll see the flip side of that now. It's going to be like people like me are like, I will see anything.
Yeah. I took a friend once to see The Irishman. in theaters, and it was a really, I mean, it wasn't a bad theater, but the seats were really uncomfortable. Everything was like really tight, and this is like a 3.5 hour long movie. And my friend's like, we could just wait to watch this on Netflix. I'm like, no, come on now. It's come out to theaters like a week before Netflix. Just go see in theaters.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. Yeah.
And we sat down there, and my friend was totally angry with me, and I made him drive me. And we were sat in these really uncomfortable seats, and there's people that sat kind of in front of us, so we didn't get a chance to see the whole table, like screen right there. Our parts were cut off. Our knees were aching. My leg kept falling asleep. I was in pain. All right, I had a freaking like spring on my seat poking me the whole time. Yeah. But that is what I love about going to the movies is the pain. But yet, I was still totally investigated in the movie itself. Like that movie, The Irishman, it may be a long movie, but I was never bothered at all by the length of it. And as long as you have something fun and enjoyable, people aren't going to mind. You know, you might have the occasional person that's going to talk to you or, you know, have their phone out. But overall, it's been good. Especially
I go to the movies so much and never see it. And I know people always complain about that, but I never see people like talking or with their phones out. And it's like,
I have.
You have? Maybe
a
few times, but like out of the hundreds of times I've gone in the last few years, it's like a few times maybe.
Yeah.
I had to go see Drive twice because the first time I saw it, a guy was just on his phone the whole time. And no matter how many times I asked him to stop and get the theater staff to try and stop him, he was on his phone. So I was like, nope, screw this. I'm out of here.
Oh, that sucks.
I got a refund too, but it just kind of ruined the day. So I went to go back to see it the next day and it was fine. But sometimes that's just going to happen. And that's like the risk that I want to take. I thought the fact too that, and I'm sure, David, where are you located again?
I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, you're Las Vegas. Okay. So you have a pretty good range of like different theaters to go to there, right?
Oh yeah, we're spoiled. We're spoiled. The one thing that sucks is we don't get a lot of like the indie films. Like we have like a couple of theaters that maybe we'll have them on 2 or 3 screens, but all the theaters that we have though are just the nicest, most amazing theaters.
Oh yeah,
the best seats and screens, and we're kind of spoiled as far as comfort is concerned.
You get a lot of cool like customers popping in the record store in Vegas.
Yes, we do.
A lot of good musicians pouring through, I would imagine.
Yeah, a bunch of famous people have come into the store, and it's a really cool shop. It's 3 floors of memorabilia and vinyl, and just hard to find. Like we specialize in like really rare, hard to find stuff.
I want to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, like rare soundtrack albums? I mean, what's like?
Oh, sure.
Are we taking a trip?
I might have to actually, because I've been just trying to build up my record collection more. So I have the Baby Driver soundtrack,
nice,
which I really enjoy. I have the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood soundtrack. I have the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. Nice. I also bought some other artists. I've got like St. Vincent's. I love St. Vincent's latest record. I don't know if you heard that one, but that's a really good one. I'm trying to find like probably the original Blade Runner soundtrack. And I also want to find Suspiria as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I'm so jealous, man. David, goddamn, you are an interesting man.
Like, what's like one like record that you're trying to find? Like, what's the Holy Grail record that you're trying to find in your record store?
You know, that would be for my dad to say. Honestly, he's the one that like buys the stuff. So I'm not quite sure an answer for that, but I know he's constantly on the hunt and like always buying. He's definitely more interested in buying than he is in selling.
Oh, can you deliver stuff from your record store?
Yes. But I will say that the fun of it is coming in and digging.
I'm trying to find that Josie and the Pussycats soundtrack album.
Yes. Isn't someone writing a book? I think you introduced me to someone who's writing a book about it.
Russ Billinger. And we're going to miss his last name. I apologize. But he's writing a whole book on Josie and the Pussycats. And I ordered the record from Mondo, even though they said that they sold out. I still put an order for the album. I'm pretty sure that means that once they do make more of it, I'll get it. But I haven't gotten the album yet. And been waiting several weeks. And I want that soundtrack album
Yeah,
It
it's
can be tough sometimes.
I listen to it on Spotify. That's a good song. It's like a really good pop punk song. That's an underrated movie. Oh my god!
Oh.
No, I won't sing. I won't sing. I promise. Oh my god!
That first song from that first track, that Three Small Words, that is my wake up call. That's my alarm. That's what I hear every morning. Yes.
Because you're a punk rock prom queen.
I am a punk rock prom queen.
Than you've ever seen.
In a while. I got to go back to that. I got to revisit
it. It is so much better.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's me and Vern are also huge fans of Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. Like, I feel like there's a Venn diagram. If you like the people who like that movie, also like Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh yeah.
It's funny too. Like, I'm kind of amazed how certain movies get special 10th anniversary screenings in theaters, and certain movies don't. Like, they just had Scott Pilgrim versus the World back in theaters.
That was awesome seeing that in the theater last week. It was
I did see that as well. That was cool. And then there was a whole special edition vinyl album soundtrack, like this 5-disc vinyl soundtrack album came out for it. But around the same time too, Josie and the Pussycats had their 10th anniversary, and they had live streams with Rachel A. Cook, Rosario Dawson, Tara Reid talked about the movie. But Universal did not spring for any theatrical re-release of that movie, and I think that movie would be great in a Dolby system. Really. So I don't know what movies will become like cult favorites again. Who knows?
It's always funny. Yeah, I like thinking about that. Like, there's stuff you think about that. Like, that means a lot to my childhood that no one ever gave two craps. Like The Boy Who Could Fly. But we also came from an era more of like you watch the same stuff only because like we owned it and we didn't have Netflix. So like there's movies that only my family loved, but like culturally it didn't really get past anything. And then there's the few that do. It's fun to look back to, like famously Avatar came out, and like there's always that joke, like name one line from Avatar. You're like, I know we all saw it, but I don't really remember anything about it.
Yeah.
Oh wow, we're kind of hitting the hour. So is there anything that we missed, or anything you guys want to hit on, or any last questions, Vern?
Yeah, no, I mean, just David, your show is piecing it together. When do you release episodes? I mean, do you actually have a certain day that episodes release? If listeners want to hear your show and you're caught up with you, what's the best day?
We post episodes on Fridays and Mondays, sometimes 2 a week, sometimes just 1 a week. But every week there's at least one episode on a Friday or a Monday. And it's keeps plugging along. We got so many movies to cover. Our most recent episode is actually one of those breaking it apart episodes where we go backwards with the concept, and we looked at 1981's Thief from Michael Mann. That was a fun one to talk about. Most recent regular episode was The Mitchells versus the Machines, which is just such a fun movie. It's on Netflix right now. New episodes every week, and you can check out my music. My name's David Rosen. That's what I put my albums out under. And there's clips from some of the films I've scored on my website, bydavidrosen.com.
That's very cool, man. Yeah. By all means, I think it's Piecing It Pod on Twitter, at Piecing Pod. At
Piecing Pod, yep.
Yep. Definitely follow them on the Twitter sphere, as you can see on your bottom screen right there. piecingittogether.com.
It's piecingpod.com.
Piecingpod.com. Sorry about this. I need to help me out with this. Piecingpod.com. But yeah, definitely check out his episodes. Definitely check out his music, especially if you're into stuff from like what Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross did. Also, same thing like Clint Mansell. A little bit of like a synth wave type of vibe to it. It's really kind of a cool stuff. And if I had extra money, if you're film directors, if you're looking for a composer, David Rosen.
Yeah, and people can hire you too. I saw on your site. So I thought that was really rad.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out my site, get some, samples of my work and my reel and all that kind of stuff, and then definitely get in touch.
Yeah, definitely. So Vern, where can people find you online?
I am online at cinema_recall. You can also search me on the Twitter sphere at Video Vanguard, spelled Vangaurd. Also, just find me through Facebook under Cinema Recall Podcast. If you just type in your little computer search window, Cinema Recall, we're on there. This whole month we're covering Mulholland Drive, David Lynch's Mulholland Drive, and you have on guest Jason Soto from Whatever with Jason Soto and Ryan Luis Rodriguez of the Reels of Justice and Quillen's Chronicles. And on each episode, either me and Jason or me and Ryan are going to be talking about each 20 minutes of Mulholland Drive and just kind of doing a deep dive. And then our Patreon channel, I'm doing bonus reviews of other David Lynch movies.
Wonderful. You can find me on all the things at Let's Chat Podcast every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. EST here at Let's Chat Live, and our podcast, Let's Chat with Chris Revel. Most recent guest, we had comedian, podcaster, and author Chris Gethard. You can go check that out. And we'll have a special announcement coming out very soon as well. So we'll be getting able to get our Let's Chat Live. Will be soon coming to the audio feed as well. So everyone have a good, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night.
Bye.